Each badger marks the track with its own scent.
His black legs are short but very powerful for digging. The name badger probably comes from the French word bêcher, meaning digger.
Hello everybody, welcome along another edition of the Cricket Badger podcast. And I need funereal music or something because it's gone horribly wrong for England, hasn't it? There's two guests to my right here. I'll bring them onto the screen. And the one in the middle there has got a big cheesy grin on his face because Australia are leading by 2 matches to 0. We'll give you a chance to crow in a few minutes, Lucas. And welcome back, Azeem, to the pod. Good to see you again, mate. And we'll pick the bones out of England's performance. I've entitled this one, Did BazBall Die in Brisbane? And there's been a lot of chat about how England have played over the last 2 matches. I mean, it's not that many days of cricket, is it really? 6 days of cricket, 2 matches. England find themselves 2-0 down. Azeem, I saw your post yesterday about the hierarchy with English cricket and how the game's been run. I mean, just before I ask you to kind of expand on that, we've always had a fear with BazBall. I mean, they don't call it BazBall, but basically this kind of bravado, this is, backing players, no consequence cricket, go out there, express yourself, all of these kind of phrases they have, which they double down on, triple down on, quadruple down on as they get beaten more and more. But if you actually look at the cold hard facts of the results, England haven't won a 5-match series against India or Australia for ages. And that's what they're judged on. Rightly or wrongly, beating Pakistan in Pakistan, great results, but it doesn't go down in terms of all-time things because English people see Australia and the Ashes as being the most important. And they've been building this team and playing this style of cricket with Australia down under as the focus. That's been the end thing. That's the final exam of this process. Backing Crawley at the top of the order because he can ride the bounce and play the ball. Backing all these bowlers and playing this kind of cricket has been to take on Australia in Australia. They've had their chances in these games. They've been playing a B-list attack. If you take Stark out of the equation, Boland would have probably played a few tests in this Ashes series, but the others wouldn't have been in there if Hazelwood and Cummins had been fit. So England have had a real opportunity in Australia in these first 2 test matches. And Azeem, they've fluffed their lines a bit, haven't they?
Oh, have they ever? I think that's the frustrating part. That this is a massive missed opportunity. And for some of us, you don't like to say it, but we are going to say it. It's a massive told you so. And it was all there. It was all there. You can't live in, I mean, for me, it's a cult, and it has been for a while. They're living in complete delusional land. And what actually ends up happening when you have a situation like this where, you lose sense of reality is actually when it doesn't go quite right, everyone's very confused as to where it's gone wrong. And that's what I've sensed in the last 24 hours. And that's not just from the players, from Ben Stokes, from Brendan McCullum, but also from the media. Because, listen, the pencils are being sharpened, the mics are being really dialed in, but let's not absorb them like the cricket media. And I don't know if you call yourself as part of that or not. But there's been a lot of cheerleading of this, very much so. And I think there's a lot of people with egg on their face. And I think genuinely, deep down, I truly believe that we've got good players and we had an opportunity. And I don't think Test cricket's at its most strongest. I think we've blown it in, less than 6 days of cricket. And listen, as we go into the conversation, I haven't heard enough people talk about the fact there is about 40,000 people that are, bucket list, spending a lot of money, getting across to Australia, supporting. Perth, I know of someone that actually flew in on the second day to watch the third and the fourth day. And actually, when you then hear the coach come out yesterday, it's as if Brendan McCullum just basically is trying to get himself sacked so he can have a payout or something. It's completely and utterly disrespectful to everyone involved. And most importantly, the game of cricket itself.
What's your view, Lucas, then, from an Aussie side of things? I mean, we've obviously been talking about BazBall for a few years now. Brendan McCullum's come in and taken charge. There have been some great days. Don't get me wrong. If you actually look at the way they've played, there've been some fantastic days of cricket. I think they've been outweighed by the frustrating days of cricket. The days where they've lost 7 wickets for 70 runs or something like that and thrown away good positions have been just as plentiful as the days where they've actually, snatched a victory from the jaws of a draw or whatever. What's the Australian kind of perspective? I mean, I've seen the headlines in the cricket press down in Australia, and some of your writers can't write, can they? The headlines have been absolutely really disrespectful. But that's always the case. But what does the average Australian think about BazBall and the way this has gone?
I wouldn't listen to some newspaper, especially that Western Australian, absolute criminal. That newspaper, how that's still going. That's a problem even during the winter when they're not playing cricket. Very very biased Perth-based newspapers. I wouldn't worry anything about that personally. For the average Australian, BazBall's a flop, complete flop. Overrated. They've had, as you correctly so, James, they've had chances, but it's been arrogance, thinking that they can get away with something that hasn't worked in India. Didn't work in Pakistan in the second time they went there, not at the early days, but when they went the second time. And they've came to Australia with arrogance, and they've been humbled very quickly. This, as you mentioned, James, this has not been these 2 test matches have not ended in 5 days. This is 6 days of cricket. 6 days of cricket, and you're down 2-0. Now, the last time they travelled here, that Ashes was over in 12 days of cricket, I think. You're in danger of ending this in 8. Absolute flop. And there is times where you've had Australia, especially that first test match. I think Australia were completely dominant in that second test. But that first test, you had them. But then arrogance took over, and you was just cocky. You thought Australia were going to roll. We've done this to so many teams. They've rolled over. Australia is not one of those teams. They do not roll over. You must play to your potential 100% of the time. And England have been, in a way, cocky in doing that, thinking they're going to get away with it when you can't. You can't. You're not against India and India, and not against Australia and Australia with world-class bowlers, world-class players. And you hit the nail on the head, James. No Hazelwood, no Lyon, no Cummins, and yet they've bowled out England all 4 times, 4 innings, without these players, which is unbelievable. Yeah, Stark's having a meta series, one of the best series so far ever. But Nice have picked up 5 wickets. Donga's picked up a couple of wickets. No contribution by a spinner. It's just been total domination, and that's not good enough from a team that's pumped themselves up big time. That's got, in a way, arrogance, which is fine. I don't mind that. I was like that as a bowler. But you got to back it up. And when the time has came to back it up, you've just flopped. That's probably the average Australian here, James, when it comes to that.
A lot of talk about the preparation, Azeem, and obviously generally speaking, not all teams fly out fairly late these days because it's the long tour and you don't want to extend it. But I said on the commentary the other day, it's a longer tour if you're losing. So you prepare to succeed, and you don't prepare to fail, don't you? And it's not necessarily the length of time they spent out there, but it's what they've done. I mean, Brendan McCullum actually said yesterday they've actually had too much training, and Ben Stokes kind of doubled down on that a little bit by saying, you train you got to train the right way. Well, surely there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of conflicting messages, and if you're not training the right way, well, who's responsible for that? Because surely you should be training the right way. And when Ben Stokes said after the defeat in Brisbane that an England dressing room in Australia needs to be a team of warriors. There's no place for sort of faint hearts and that kind of stuff. And there needs to be some honest conversations. Well, surely there needed to have been honest conversations 12 months ago, 18 months ago. It's a bit late now to have honest conversations when you're 2-0 down in an Ashes series that you've been preparing for 2 years. And I think that in a different regime, if you'd had Andy Flower in charge, Duncan Fletcher in charge, there is no way on earth that Zach Crawley would have played 65 test matches, whatever he's on now. There's no way on earth that Ollie Pope would have been allowed to have kind of drifted the way he's drifted through his career. There are players getting test caps that, quite frankly, don't deserve them. And I can see that from outside of the bubble. But you mentioned before, when you're in a bubble, it's a bit like being on social media and you're in that echo chamber and all you're seeing is people saying the same things that you believe. If you shut those doors of the dressing room and you don't listen to Ian Botham, Jeffrey Boycott, Nasser Hussain, whoever else is having a say out there, then you need somebody in that dressing room to actually say, hang on a second, guys, are we actually doing this right? And there doesn't seem to be anybody in that England camp that's actually a dissenting voice almost, which you need in a agree. It doesn't have to be rude. It doesn't have to be disruptive, but somebody actually just saying, hang on a second, have we actually thought about doing it this way instead?
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's so much you brought up there, and I'm glad the first bit about Ben Stokes' comment, because there's this sense of there's a little bit of fear from a lot of people around Ben. There is this, this hero type, obviously, individual. Ben's post-match comments yesterday, if you actually take the individual out of it and, everyone's love for him, one, he contradicted himself throughout it. Secondly, he is the reason for a lot of what he was blaming his players on. And thirdly, I think he's thrown his players under the bus yesterday. I think he's thrown his players under the bus when actually a lot of it, whatever's happening internal is one thing, but it's been, he talked about the bowlers, not hitting their plans. Well, hold on a minute. Who set the plans? The field was set for short pitch bowling in that third session, right? At times throughout his tenure, he has gone, I want them to go out there, pump their chest out and play shots. So when Zach Crawley and an Ollie Pope are getting out caught and bowled, well, I'm sorry, then Ben and Brendan hold a lot of responsibility for that. Listen, I'm not absorbing the players of the responsibility. That at the end of the day, it's your career. You got to make your decisions. And, ultimately, when the chop comes, no one's going to care. And this is what I've been saying throughout this time, that they've pushed themselves into such extremes that they've lost sense of reality. But ultimately, when the Ashes series comes around and there's a bit of accountability, then they won't know where to turn. See, Ben's gone out. Actually, you know what? If you look at the Will Jacks and Ben Stokes yesterday, a lot of praise went their way. For what? For batting normally. For batting. Like we've got into a situation where we're praising someone actually putting a price on their wicket. Simple things.
I don't know if you saw my tweet yesterday, Azeem, but midway through that partnership, I actually said this partnership is really starting to frustrate me because it's basically they're just doing the basics and doing the normal stuff. And it just shows you what this England team could actually do if they actually applied some brains and some technique.
And you know what? You're not even brains, James. Like, you're not going to change cricket. I was listening to a podcast, that me and Matt do in July, I think, last year. And I'm going to clip some things up because for me, there's got to be some method to the madness, right? Picking players on hunch, fine. Pick one player. At extreme, pick two players. You've got to respect county cricket. There's a clip of Rob Key. And again, it's been 24 hours. And I haven't seen Rob Key mentioned anywhere. And the disrespect that Rob Key, which has led from the top, from Rob Key, when it's come to county cricket, we are supposed to have prepared for this amazingly well. We used Kookaburra ball in county championship because that's what was going to get ready. We picked players on, high delivery points, Shoaib Bashir or bounds, etc. We picked players on clips online, right? We did all this stuff. How the chuffing hell have we turned up to the Ashes with the prep that we've had? And then we've had a player in Will Jacks who has hardly played any first-class cricket, played a test match a long time ago, wasn't in any plans. I'm sorry, right? They're very much of our today's society. They've been winging it. They've been, quite frankly, I mean, even yesterday, Ben's comments yesterday, I'm sorry. I know everyone is really scared to say anything to Ben. They are full of sound bites and utter crap, quite frankly, in my opinion. And he's thrown his players under the bus when actually all they've done is follow his and Brendan McCullum's and Rob Key's vision. They've had this, they talk about stuff like, having clarity, I don't, and all of this. And, they've had a very simple way, which is one way, right? And they've not actually allowed anyone else. I know some of these players, and that's why Ollie Pope is an easy target. Ollie Pope is a very easy target. I know some of these players, not just Ollie Pope, so I'm not naming people, who have wanted to train more in this tenure. I'm not on about just on this year's Ashes series. And basically, there's been no, it's a day off, go play golf. I think, and then yesterday, Brendan McCullum's comments yesterday, I'm sorry. Honestly, I know my hot take is a massive hot take. But I would genuinely put you, say Leeds United, right? I mean, you're doing well at the minute, but say you're in football, what happens is, it's so important to stay in the Premier League that that owners are ready to take that punt to try and see if they can revitalize the players or something. For me, honestly, we are there. We ain't gonna win crap in this series. I'm sorry. I would love this to age. There's no way England are winning in this series, and there's still an Ashes to be won. And this frustration comes from still right now. I still firmly believe if England change tact and just play with some sort of normality, they can put Australia under pressure. But yeah, it's a very, very sad place that we found ourselves. But actually, I think the worst thing is there was this expectation build, and even that wasn't on reality, because I did a little clip because Stuart Broad had the whole thing going about best England team, worst Australian team, and I did a little clip after that, and I was like, hold on a minute, we haven't won a single Test match in Australia since 2010, 2011. So all of a sudden, there was a prediction by Alistair Cook and Graham Swan, and I looked at it and I went, how are we going to win 3 Test matches? So that was one part. Second, the very reason a lot of the pundits gave England a chance is their style of play, is the very reason I think England had no chance. Because history shows you in Australia, Graham Smith's South African side, the 2 Indian tours, and Strauss's 10-11, and it was all on a common theme of attritional, boring, patience cricket. How did you think you were going to go there and, do anything other than that and win in Australia? So I think it's a missed opportunity. I think it's been, and I think, to be honest, Key plays a big part because he appointed him. But I think this is Brendan McCullum's personality down to a T. And I'm sorry, it might have worked for Brendan McCullum playing for New Zealand. It might have worked for Brendan McCullum in his personal career, but it doesn't work for everyone. And unfortunately, leadership is not just about getting the best out of people who are same as you. It's getting the best out of people who are not like you. And Brendan McCullum has no chance of that. And because they have gone everyone the same, Brendan, Ben, Rob, Key, then I think you have an echo chamber, and that's what you find here, where there's fully lost sense of any reality.
Lucas, in a cricket team, I think there are some positives of BazBall. I don't want to discredit the whole thing. I think having, taking the attack back to the opposition kind of makes sense at various stages. But you read a game of cricket, don't you? As a player out there in the middle, you've got to be conscious of the scoreboard, and you've got to try and do what the opposition don't want you to do. And if you bring on Mitchell Starc and he's flying, what the opposition don't want you to do is to keep him out and see him off. They don't want you to go and attack him and give him loads of chances. And Michael Nessa made a really, in his interview after day 3, I think it was, he said at the start of the second innings for England, they came out and maybe tried too hard. They were trying to force it. They were trying to take wickets. And then they kind of stepped back and they went back to the channel, top of off stump. And he actually said, I think his quote was something, either this or very similar to this, because we know that if we bowl this to England, they will give us chances. And that's basically, just get boring, stifle them, and Zach Crawley, Ollie Pope, whoever, even Joe Root in the second dig, will give you a chance. And that's been Australia's strategy, isn't it? Let's bore them to death, test their ego, and they will serve up a chance at some stage.
Just on Azeem's points, before I get into that, he's spot on. If my coach was if Australian had a coach and they played like that, and they treated the Sheffield Shield, which is the Red Bull domestic series, like that, like Rob Keir's done, I'd be livid. There'd be an outrage, absolute outrage. But having said that, now you remember when they lost Ponting, they lost their golden generation, Warren McGrath. Australia, they brought in a new coach. He didn't change anything. He kept them the same. They're still attacking. Even when Justin Langer was there, still the same way, the Australian way. So I agree with that with Azeem's point. You know, sometimes being a coach with your own way it won't work. You have to adjust. If you keep on being vanilla, which is like basic, if you're just a basic person that doesn't want to change anything or at least tweak something, then you're going to get found out on against world-class opposition. Yeah, all good beating West Indies, all good beating Sri Lanka, all good beating them. That's fine. But you want to prove yourself. You have to beat India in India. You have to beat Australia in Australia. They are the biggest tests in world cricket. And they have failed. Now, to your point, we talked about last show about weathering the storm. Now, look what Will Jacks did and Ben Stokes. That's fine. Good on you. Congratulations. But where was that from Joe Root and Harry Brook in that night session? Look at the way they got out. I think Joe Root, apart from that 100 and fantastic, he's got the 100, great. I think Joe Root's been poor this series, apart from the 100. You know, that shot last night, 2 nights ago in the night session, that just undid his all good work. Playing away from your body, a shot like that when you needed to grind down under lights to survive that storm. Gave away his wicket. Harry Brook, yeah, a bit of a good ball by Bowler, but still probably didn't need a play of that. Yes, James.
Just on that, I thought there were 2 instances in the first digs. Cam Green for Australia played quite nicely, and then he played a stupid shot, and he opened the door for England. And Harry Brook is always guilty of this. You know, he's a tremendous player, Harry Brook. He's got every shot in the book. He's a tremendous player, but he seems to want to go at 150 miles an hour when he could be driving at 60. And shot he played in the first innings for England. Not just lost his wicket, but it brought Ben Stokes in. It brought, it opened the door for a rampant Mitchell Stark to basically kind of prey on the next players that were fresh at the crease. And those moments changed the course of the Test match, don't they? Azeem, come back in on that, Lee, because just 1 sec.
Yeah, listen, on Harry Brook, I think he typifies this whole system for me. I know Harry Brook. Harry Brook he's a good kid. He's an outstanding player. He's got amazing talent and potentially the ability to be one of the best, we've ever produced, potentially. I think he's a mix between Root and Peterson, and I don't say that lightly. But I don't know what the chuffing hell is going on with Harry Brook. And it's not now. It's been happening for a while, and everyone's clapped it for a while. And it's felt like I've been the only dissenting voice in this. I have had so much on social media, a lot of Harry's friends from Leeds or Bradford, wherever he's from. But if you think seriously that running down the pitch at 39 for 3 and hitting over extra cover, regardless of the fact that he hits it for 6, is the right way to play Test cricket, then I'm sorry, I must be a dinosaur or something, because it's not going to work.
On that, Azeem, I said on commentary that you've got to look at the risk-reward kind of setup of a shot. And if you are dancing down, you hit it over extra cover for 6. Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous shot in a T20. But the benefit of that 6 runs is massively outweighed by the risk of losing your wicket. And the risk of losing your wicket from a shot like that is pretty high. And he dances down, loses his shape, and he's giving the bowler more chance, isn't he, by doing stuff like that?
Well, the bowlers are just thinking, all right, how long are you going to do it for? The reality is Test cricket ebbs and flows, and Test cricket is actually a lot of, long format cricket is about when you get the runs, how you get. Example being Mitchell Stark, Scott Boland, them guys, and Brad Haddin talked about it leading into the session. It doesn't matter how many runs you get. It's just about, taking as long time as you want. So going back to Harry Brook, that is one of your best players, and he's backing away, slaying this, slaying that. It happened at the Oval. It was him who set up the match, and then it was him who lost the match, right? I got criticism then. It happened in the first Test, and now the problem you've got is, right, firstly, he bats in the easiest position in the batting lineup. I felt for a very long time that Harry Brook should be batting number 3 to make him take responsibility. Because at number 5, it's too easy for him to go out and basically slog, which is how he's been batting. He's not been batting, he's been slogging. Now the problem...
He's been batting like a number 9 who's got 450 on the board, hasn't he? Rather than somebody that's actually got to go out there and graft a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem he's got now is, right, and this was always going to be the problem. These players have had this amazing existence where there's no accountability to basically being useless, right, and playing without responsibility. All of a sudden, there's pressure. So what did Harry Brook do this last innings? He got out defending. Now, what's going to happen in his brain, in his top 2 inch, he's going to go off as he was walking off, been there, done that. He'll be thinking, well, I should have just whacked it, because now I've got out defending. And now he's going to be playing in his mind, in his 2 inch. And then Brendan McCullum will go up to him and say, oh, man, just take a chill pill, just smack it. So they're confused now. They're going to have so much confusion as to how to go about it. But through this last 18 months, what's happened is they've all lost their techniques. It's not going to be easy to go out and basically bat normally now because they don't know how to. They've lost their techniques. Cricket is about rhythm. And that's the reason when they go back to preparation, when Ben Stokes called them has-beens, that wasn't a slip of the tongue. That wasn't a slip of tongue, mate. It wasn't. Yeah, it's how they see everyone else. It's exactly how the environment sees everyone else. And what you're going to have is cricket preparing is not just the opposition. It's just your own rhythms. It's your own feelings. It's your vision. You just standing there and watching a bowler running. It's all these cues. They're the things that get you ready. I think they're going to have a serious problem for the next 3 test matches. I think whoever the new coach is going to such a problem undoing the damage this is done, because you've got players all over the place who will have no clue as to whether they're coming or going. And the weirdest part is that these are probably our best players in the country. So the whole thing of drop them and bringing someone else in, I don't think these are not in your best 11 players. Some of them are not. But like Harry Brook, would you drop a Harry Brook?
No.
How do you drop a Harry Brook? Because he is one of your best players. He's the second best player in the world, right? But at some point, you need to knock this mentality out of these people. And sometimes you got to make a bit of a call to basically piss someone off to show that this shit ain't going to carry on.
Oh, yeah, just on that, and I'll come back to you, Lucas. Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. But on that, you've been in the professional dressing room, Azeem, and there've been people waiting in the wings. Say for sake of argument, Yorkshire, you've got the academy guys, you've got the second 11 guys. They're desperately trying to get your shirts off you in the first team. That's positive, isn't it? Because that kind of focuses your mind. It might bring a little bit of pressure at times when things aren't going quite so well. It might bring a little bit of pressure, but that's what professional sport's about. The kind of being the best and making sure you stay at that level to keep other people away from the team. And there isn't that consequence in this England side at the minute.
Listen, life is full of consequences. Where does pressure come from? It comes from consequence. The reality is, in them 4 walls, you can make it as cozy as you want. Ultimately, when they go out there and don't perform, there's going to be consequence. And absolutely, competition drives you forward. Again, this squad has no backup openers. He has Jacob Bethel, who's got 1 adult 100 as the backup batter. It's got no spinners. It's got it's that warm-up game. When people talk about the prep, I don't understand why more people are not talking about the fact that even in that match, they didn't put their number 1 batters against their number 1 bowlers. They put them against Lions bowlers, and then so they made it basically as easy as possible for them. Now, there's 2 things there. One is they think that basically their players are weak, and they don't want them to have a bad knock, and they don't want to put them against the hardest training possible, just in case they go into it without confidence. Or secondly, they genuinely think that is the best route. And if it's the latter, I'd be more worried. But you're absolutely right. You are driven. The person with a shirt, one of the things that drives you to keep is someone pushing you. And, and actually, competition and consequence is what is professional sport. It is what is international sport. You're playing for freaking England, for goodness sake. I cannot genuinely, it's a cult. I can't put it to anything else. and it is truly in Brendan McCullum's image. It is truly in Brendan McCullum's personality. If you get a chance, go and read Andy Moles' book, where he talks about Brendan McCullum, where he talks about, Brand McCullum being the most important thing to Brendan McCullum. I'm sorry, right? I'm an England fan, right? I am raging every time there's a camera on Brendan McCullum. I'll be honest with you. Genuinely, I can't, because for me, all of that is just bravado. I mean, the guy's just literally tossing it off. They're going for a golf trip now. That's not a good look. I'm sorry. You've got to realize that you're playing for England.
Absolutely. Lucas, from your side of things, I mean, I know you're loving it. You got a big smile on your face. Australia are 2-0, but we wanted a good Ashes series, didn't we? I mean, I said halfway through day 2, yeah, this series would be so much better. However they get there, if it's 1-1 going to Adelaide, than if it's 2-0 to Australia. It just kind of keeps the interest. It keeps that jeopardy on every session. And the danger is that the likes of Glenn McGrath at 5-0 are going to be proved right.
Yeah. Well, I said 4-1. I said it just amazed me this word preparation gets thrown around. So you knew Australia would make these pitches because Cummins and Stark were complaining, were saying, oh, the pitches against India were fantastic. They were saying that in the winter. We want the same pitches, right? There's going to be a pink ball test, and Joe Root comes out and other players say there shouldn't be a pink ball test. It's an unfair advantage. Mate, you had Zimbabwe in a one-off test match. You could have played a pink ball test there. You could have played a pink ball test against India. You had every chance to prepare. Every chance. Now, I understand you don't want to do that in marquee series like India. I get that. But you still, this is the Ashes. Australia didn't muck around. They wanted to get the job done as soon as possible. And it sounds like they're going to do that in probably 8-9 days of cricket. It's an absolute joke. With bowlers like Neeser, no disrespect to Neeser, but he's a shield bowler. Yes, he has played for Australia before, but he can't get in the team because he's a shield bowler. Bowlers probably will see him more in the test squad now that Hazelwood's getting injury prone, but he was a shield bowler. They prefer Hazelwood. Doggett's a shield bowler. Doggett's only had one good year, and he takes a couple of wickets. This is not good enough. Look at the way of the dismissals. Now let's look at Mitchell Starc. I know you love this word, Jason, because I say it a lot. Bowling IQ. He's not trying. Mitchell Starc at no point to Zach Crawley. Yes, James.
Where did you read that? Because it's something you say every sentence now, and you didn't say it 2 weeks ago. So you've read that somewhere, and you like it, don't you?
I like it. I love it. I just read an article of how the Australian bowlers have just been more smarter. But look at Mitchell Starc. He, compared to the last Ashes series in Australia, he was trying to whip through off stump, whip through middle stump. He's not doing that. He's pitching the ball away from the right-handers. He's trying to get away swing because he knows the English batsmen want bat on ball. Crawley, Joe Root, his dismissals, they want bat on ball. So he's not trying to blast you 150 clicks into middle stumps. He knows that they can't help themselves. That's where an arrogant coach needs to get off his high horse and say, you know what? Maybe we need to adjust. What would have happened if they did that? If Jacks and Stokes did that? If Root and Brook did that in the night session, this result could have been so much different. We saw how good it was batting on day 4 in the afternoon sessions. It could have been so much different, that lead. So much different if they would have batted sensibly. No, Root plays a shot outside off stump. Brook could have left that ball, defended it. So it's absolute madness. And this coach now blaming preparation is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, with all due respect.
I just don't get the McCullum thing about preparation, because who actually decided what preparation they were going to do? Brendan McCullum decided what preparation they were going to do. So you're kind of effectively blaming yourself, aren't you, for it? So I just don't get that at all. Just one thing before I come to you, Azeem, to Lucas. I mean, if you're in a dressing room, Lucas, where your coach is basically backing everything you do, there's no consequences, there's no bollockings for kind of doing things badly in whatever situation. And every time you get days off, you can go and play golf and do whatever you like. You're going to be a happy camp, aren't you? And you're going to love it, and you're going to back the coach, and you're going to say how great the coach is, because it's a holiday camp, isn't it? I mean, if you're winning in Australia and you're doing all of this stuff, then you can get away with all of these things. But if you're actually, putting up some bad sessions, then people are going to start focusing on what you're doing. And at the moment, it looks like a holiday camp where they're just all their lads together, best mates together, a little club, a cult, like Azeem would say. And you're going to enjoy a dressing room like that because there's no nastiness there. It's all.
Well, that's it. There's no backlash. There's no repercussions. We're going to talk about, let's, for example, Root playing a bad shot, Brook getting out in that night session. Well, it's all good because you're playing that way. So there's no repercussions. So of course they're going to play that the way the next. Now there's talk about moving Jacks to 3 or opening with Jacks, but I can guarantee you Jacks is not going to play that way like he did in this test match. He's going to go out and try to BazBall things because that's the way the coach wants him to play.
That fourth morning, Lucas, you talked about playing better the evening before, but if they'd had wickets in hand, so there were 8 wickets for England on that scoreboard. That morning was ideal for scoring 120 runs and putting Australia under real pressure, but they denied themselves that opportunity and then had to bat, really negatively to kind of see them through it. So although there were positives in the approach, it was still in defeat, and it was still they were batting like that because they'd thrown away the game. Azeem, before I come to you, we've had some messages in, and Bloodstained Legends. Oh, what a beautiful name that is. And the second innings by Australia was amazing, he says. Cricket CJ, whatever, nice work, he says. Thank you very much, Cricket. Time to sack McCullum, says Atish. And Atish adds, bring back Bairstow and Buttler. Well, I mean, I'm not available. I'm too old now. Oh, you mean Joss? But yeah, I think Bairstow's, they've gone past that. I mean, you want to come in on something? There's something I want to ask you then, Azeem. You wanted to come in off something Lucas said, but.
Yeah, well, no, actually, it was what you said. It was around the preparation part. Again, Ben and Brendan, they're talking about, like over preparing, and we maybe hold on a minute. Who set your schedule? We didn't set it. We didn't set what you're training. Like, I honestly think they've completely lost sight of where they are, because it cannot be. You cannot be so delusional. So I think I wanted to pick that point up. Really, is that you're absolutely bang on. And if I was interviewing, I'd be like, yeah, but Brendan, who set your training sessions? We didn't, because we all wanted you to go to Canberra. You decided to have 5 sessions. You thought that was the right way to go about it.
And Brendan, if you didn't set it, well, what are you actually being paid for? Because all you do is, as you said earlier, sit there with your feet up on the balcony in front of you, looking as relaxed as anything. You don't look like there's any stresses in the world. Your team's losing 2-0, and you're the person in charge of it. What you actually
even the night before when Marcus Trescothick was sent out, and listen, I know that could be pressurized, and I felt for him because I'm sure he's not the decision maker in all the strategy and stuff. And there was a couple of really telling comments, and the one was, "It is what it is," which is always going to irk people up. But the worrying one for me was, and I think I've seen Phil Jakes, who I played with, I think it might have been on commentary, that they haven't spoken about driving on the up at Perth and Gabba. I mean, that I find staggering, because literally, and I think Phil Jakes said it, is Australia, when they play domestic cricket, one of the first conversations they have going to Perth and Gabba is don't drive on the up. And I mean, if anyone's watched any cricket, it's like in Perth and Gabba, it's either straight bat or or you're cutting. You basically can't have that half-batted sort of push that you can on English pitches. And you try and either hit straight or square. You don't go for that extra cover type area on the up, because of the bounce, it'll go to slip.
I was watching Ollie Puck's innings in the second dig, and he must have played and missed at 5 or 6 cover drives, wide balls on the up, and he played and missed at them. And you're thinking, Ollie, what on earth are you doing? Yes, it's a good shot for you. When on a flat track, you can play a lovely cover drive. It looks $1 million. But on this track, this is not a percentage shot. Alistair Cook reeled off 12,000 Test match runs by playing 3 shots, because he put away the shots that he played that were risky, and he played the shots that were the high percentage shots that he knew he could play. Ollie Pope on that surface should have, before he even went in, he should have realised this. But surely after 2 plays and misses, you should think, I'm not going to be tempted with any of these balls. I'm going to wait until I'm on 150 before I even think about playing a shot like that, and put it to bed.
if the prep had been done, James, I was very lucky to be part of some winter tour preparation at Loughborough, and just a simple look at you look at Ben Duckett, you look at Ollie Pope, and you start. I was lucky enough to watch Ian Bell, Kevin Peterson, as coach Sir Andrew. These people train before a winter tour to Sri Lanka and different places, India, and the level of detail in their plans as to how they were going to face bowlers and then setting up practice for that. Now, something as simple for Ollie Pope and Ben Duckett, one of the things I would have been looking at is, well, because of the bounce in Australia and because of their height, that pretty much, unless it's a half volley, a front foot attacking shot is out of the window because you'll just edge it. That for me, I find that such simple common sense, right?
It's obvious.
You park that away unless it's a really, really half volley. So basically, you're revolving your game around a cut shot, a pull shot, a flick off the hip, and just basically dropping it and running. That's what you're revolving your game around. They're going out there driving at balls. I think Ben Duckett's had a free pass up to now, and you know what's biggest point telling in this with the character of these guys. I found yesterday quite embarrassing. I'll be honest, that little period where Australia was chasing. And the reason I found it embarrassing was you had all these commentators saying, oh, this is great fight. Oh, this is going to put England in a great stead going into the next test match. And honestly, watching that was making me genuinely frustrated because I'm like, hold on a minute. The reason Steve Smith had Jofra biting because he was absolutely bang right. Day before, Jofra was running in bowling 135 clicks. I'm not picking on Jofra. Some of the others were the same. My point being is, come out and chirp and bowl 150 clicks in that and say to him, oh, you're playing shots now that scoreboard doesn't matter. And then, you've got Stokesy going at Jake Weatherall. I'm like, guys, get off the field. You're embarrassing yourself. You're 2-0 down. Yesterday when you needed your Crawley 60-odd test matches, Ollie Pope 60-odd test matches, Ben Duckett supposedly a few months ago in line to be white ball captain. Where were they? Do something on the field. It's easy to strut around, like we own the place and look at us, we're going to change test cricket, all that cringe crap. It's moments where your bowlers and your team need it in the field that characters of individuals and teams shines. That is when it shines. And full marks to Stokesy. In them moments, he never backs down. In them moments, he drives it, right? But how much is he going to drive it? And this will go back to what me and you agree on, James, but a lot of people, again, this is a very reason I would have never made Ben Stokes a captain. For all the good bits that he has, England only have a chance of winning in Australia as Ben Stokes, the player, the all-rounder. They can still do without Ben Stokes, the captain. But without Ben Stokes, the all-rounder, England have got absolutely no chance in anything, anywhere, because history shows you that it's actually him who's won England most things that they've won in the last decade.
Yeah. And on Ben Stokes' captaincy, he was dreadful. Now, I said to you this last week also, James, before the actual start. What happened? It's all good and mighty when England are front runners, they look invincible. Their body language is up. They want the fight, but when they are down, my God, they disappear. Now, I think Azeem, I get your point. Of course, you want to see that Jofra from day one, of course. But Ben Stokes rode him into the ground in that first innings and on day 3 in that night session. He rode Bryden Cass into the ground. I feel sorry for those two bowlers. A lot of sympathy for them, especially Bryden Cass. He was bowling all day on day 3, all day on morning session day 4, trying his guts out. But Ben Stokes, the captain, that was absolute rubbish. And the tactic at night trying to bowl short. Bryden Cass couldn't even bowl short. He was physically done. And then you had Ben Stokes yelling at him, saying, "What the hell are you doing?" You as a captain, you have to read those situations. You have to read that the bowlers, bowlers are not, with all due respect, we have big egos bowlers. We're not going to tell our captain that we can't go on. We're going to keep bowling, of course. But Ben Stokes, the captain, has to realise that, okay, maybe I'm putting these bowlers into the ground. I have a spinner. Why wasn't a spinner used? And then when you do use the spinner, it's far too late. And I thought Will Jack's bowling, I thought he was actually pretty good, to be honest. They could have easily, yes, Azeem, yeah, go.
Well, I fully agree with you, by the way, and that's why I think he's actually thrown him under the bus in the press conference, because a lot of everything that we're talking about is Ben Stokes' vision, it's Ben Stokes' tactics, it's Ben Stokes' selection. The thing with Rob Key, Brendan McCullum, and Ben Stokes, the one thing at the end of every Ashes series that everyone has a free pass on is attacking county cricket. Well, these guys don't have it. They've had everything their way, and I am absolutely. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I was watching. Right, so going into that third session, I was like, right, guys, just please don't bowl short. Just please don't bowl short. It's pink ball. It's honestly, I was doing it in a bit of a sarcastic way to myself. I could not believe it. They ran in and banged it halfway down. I feel sorry for Bryden. I honestly feel sorry for Bryden, because I've seen a few of the journalists calling Bryden Cars out. Bryden was basic, and there's a bit of a worshipness towards Ben, right? They're all shit scared of him. They all just follow whatever he says, and it was his tactics. And the reason he didn't use a spinner is because he didn't pick a spinner, right? That's why he didn't use a spinner, because he knew if he'd have picked Will Jacks when the game was still on the line somewhere, Will Jacks was going to get whacked. And when Will Jacks was going to get whacked, they were going to look even more idiotic, because Will Jacks, for everything he did well for 40, how many ever balls he faced, he shouldn't even be on the tour. He didn't deserve to be in that squad. That's the sad reality, because you keep picking with no substance behind what you're picking, you're going to keep ending up in the same situation. And that's why they didn't bowl him.
I thought Will Jacks actually had quite a good game, but when you're talking about his spin bowling, he was bowling against number 10 and number 11, wasn't he? He wasn't easily bowling in Steve Smith.
He bowled when the game was against Boland and them guys, which makes his figures look all right. Right, when he came on to bowl, I think he went for 5 in his first over, and I think he was 10 off two overs when it was still decent enough. And the reason he didn't bowl is because the captain knew he's not good. Everything I honestly, and I go for me, how far back do you want to go? Is where I'd happily, the first point of when Rob Key was appointed, his first press conference, and I remember it clearly because it struck me at the time. He basically more or less said that white ball cricket will look after itself. It's red ball cricket that we need to focus on. So straight away, there's a sense of complacency there, right? England are not Pakistan. England are not Sri Lanka. England have amazing resources. Why do we need to focus on one or the other? Then what happened? Our white ball cricket has gone from being the best, we won that T20 World Cup, to being completely and utterly useless, right? In no time. Matthew Mott, clearly, he got that wrong, right? And then I think one thing that no one is going on is that a multi-year contract was the start of some of the most shambolic things that have taken place, because it was just before the World Cup. Johnny Bairstow's had a great time chilling, playing for Yorkshire, travelling, enjoying himself while being on a central contract. David Milan was on a central contract without playing. Mark Wood got a central contract. Jofra Archer's had a field time with his rehab wherever he's wanted in the world. They've had everything. They've had everything. And how, at the end of that, they've ended up in a situation where they've had to pick a guy with 2 test matches in the deciding, potentially deciding match, the second test match, which I thought it was. All of it, when you strip it back, makes you go, how has no one gone, what is going on? Because simply it's a cult.
I have a message in from Bears Fanatic. Hello, Bears Fanatic. He says, BazBall had a purpose. It was a simplistic way to build confidence and overcome some basic technical problems for an England team that was at a serious low point. It should have been developed, players improved, tweaked to lead to ever-improving results. But it almost became too easy because they just created an echo chamber, almost a cult, with no accountability. They went with vibes over evidence, style over substance, mates over results. I think that's a very good message. Thank you, Bears. Azeem, you played county cricket. There is obviously a step down to county cricket. International cricket is, it is higher up. So you need to take your very best out of the county circuit to have a chance of playing international cricket. But there has just been no recognition, no respect to the county championship, I don't think, in any test selection that we've done. For me, having Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett at both opening and both kind of going out there to trailblaze, you need somebody solid there as well. I think you may have a dasher by all means, like Warner, but have a Kawaja at the other end that's going to be a little bit more circumspect. But pick the players that are actually shown that they can do it at the county championship level. County championship cricket is bloody good. You know, I went to see a couple of matches this year. The standard is decent. Obviously not international, but it's not that far behind. I don't think the gulf is huge. So the players that are scoring runs in the championship are scoring runs at a decent level, and in my view, have the best chance of scoring runs at Test cricket. If you look at them and how they're scoring runs, who they're scoring the runs against, look at their techniques, and you identify somebody that's got 1,000 runs and who looks like they could have a chance, they should get a chance at Test cricket. But over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been no routine. Tom Haynes at Sussex, you know, you've got the two Rue brothers coming through at Somerset. You've got a load of really good, young, talented players out there who are getting runs and are putting in performances at the county championship level that have just been completely ignored, other than almost like futile Lions tours, because the Lions tours don't really lead to anything. Because that bubble with England, that 15, is so tight that there's almost no route into it, unless it is, like you say, a kind of like a vibes pick, like Will Jacks. Just out of nowhere, he's had a few nice innings in the 100. They've got to give the championship, Azeem, a bit more respect, haven't they, and actually pay attention to it a bit more.
Yeah, listen, again, this administration has been the biggest job for the boys I've ever seen, and I could reel out names after names within it. There's just the disrespect of county cricket has been astonishing, to be honest. And you know, we've got a spinner who his county doesn't want him, right? He's looking for a county. We have a wicketkeeper.
He can't find another county because nobody's making rates for him.
That's what I mean, right?
That one is madness.
We've got a wicketkeeper. We've got a wicketkeeper who's not first choice wicketkeeper in his county, right? We've got players genuinely like in and round who have hardly played any cricket. We picked Jacob Bethel on the back of, you know, a few white ball games. It's not going to work. And you look at some of the performances in county cricket last year, and what's the point? Like someone like Sam Cook. Again, I did a clip before the series about the style of bowling that's required in Australia, and England went one dimensional. And actually, pitches have changed for the likes of Boland, Nessa, Doggett. You know, can you imagine back in the day these type of bowlers getting wickets in Australia? No, but the pitches have changed, and everyone was talking about the fact that the pitches have changed. But it's as if like Key, McCullum, Stokes, they know it all. Everyone else. I mean, I think Jeffrey's been. I've seen a few comments by Jeffrey. I think he's been. You can laugh it off. You can say, "Oh, Jeffrey." He's absolutely bang on, and he knows what he's talking about when it comes to cricket. You know, so I think it's going to be a humbling few weeks for a lot of these boys. I think there's going to be some careers ended, sadly, because I honestly, genuinely, a lot of these lads are good lads, and I actually think that some of them are still the best players in the country. I think
that's the problem, Azeem, isn't it? Because Ollie Pope, take Ollie Pope as an example. His average at number 3 is about 40. Isn't too shabby, but he's the one that's been singled out by most people. You take him back to Surrey, and he plays a year of county championship cricket for Surrey. He will score century after century after century for Surrey because he's a good player. But with Ollie Pope, I said this on commentary loads of times over the last 2 years. But why has Ollie Pope, and he may have done this, and if he has done, then fair play, but why has Ollie Pope not gone and said, Alistair Cook, Ian Bell, Jonathan Trott, can I buy you a coffee and sit and chat to you for 40 minutes? How did you approach your innings? What was your mindset? How did you feel when you were going to the crease? What kind of did you have any kind of little things you use to make it a little bit more, make yourself more relaxed and more focused, and actually learn from the players that have actually succeeded in the top of the order for England? Because I don't think he's actually looked quite as frenetic in this series as he's looked in the past. But he finds a way of getting himself out and finds a way of opening the door for the bowlers. Jonathan Trott had low scores as well, but Jonathan Trott was pretty solid at 3. Alistair Cook was pretty solid as an opener. You can learn from some of these guys. You don't have to take everything they say as gospel. They might tell you 20 things. There might be one thing in there that you think, I could use that.
Yeah, listen, I think what you'll see is Ollie Pope is an easy target. It's a great example of what I was saying to you. And actually, you know what? I would happy to bet my bottom dollar that bring someone like Andy Flower in, bring someone like Peter Moores, bring a proper coaching, and I think Ollie Pope will absolutely thrive for England. I think Zach Crawley, one of the worst things that anyone could have said for him early on was a comment that Brendan McCullum made about, oh, he's not going to be consistent, right? Because what you've done straight away is you've just basically put them in a box as to, actually, mate, it doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you get out, we're just expecting a 60 odd every now and then, and that's about it. And I think that's the problem with this all setup, because I think you've got the best players that have not actually had the best opportunity because of the coaching. And you talk about going to an Ian Bell, going to Alistair Cook, etc. Actually, I sense, and I don't think this should be an excuse, because I think you're all adults, you're all men that that need to take responsibility for your own careers. I do sense a bit of this from the environment, because I remember there was a thing about Ben Stokes, I think, said about he wouldn't pick Alistair Cook. Right? He wouldn't pick Alistair Cook. So you've got this real sort of, I think, was there a comment like that? Or am I?
Somebody asked him, would Cookie get into your team? Because Cookie is obviously the epitome of solid and dogged and determined and not playing flamboyant shots. And Ben Stokes said no, he wouldn't.
Oh, that's just mad. That's just BS. That's BS.
That was about 2 years ago.
And it is. But there's so much like crap like that. And I just feel like all of these players are sick and tired of the crap now. And you know what? The problem Ben's got now is he has bottled it up. He's pretended. He's effectively faked supporting them, right? Is to keep going, keep them going. But the reality is authenticity. If you keep telling me, I believe in you, 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 actually, I can tell whether you believe in me or you're just saying it. And then the switch has just gone like that. The problem Ben's going to have now is when he goes back to them players, they are already so fearful of him and says what he genuinely feels. They're going to be like, hold on a minute, mate. It was you. You're the one that ran down the pitch and slogged it and got out and said, this is how I want my team to play. It was you. You're the one who said, running and ball short. It was you.
It's been weird, Azeem, to me, because I've watched pretty much every England Test match that's been played over the last 3 years. And when BazBall first came into effect, Ben Stokes was ridiculously cavalier, and he holed out. He skied balls left, right, and centre and got himself out. And we were all saying at the time, "What are you doing, man? You're throwing your wickets away." But he was leading from the front and telling everybody else, "This is how I want you to play." But the weird thing was, after about 3 months of doing that, he's been the most cautious of all the England players, but he's been expecting everybody else to be taking the risks.
Well, actually, he's actually been either one extreme or the other. Actually, honestly, I don't know why we do it to our best players. Would have never made him captain. I think he has become this. I don't know what it is. He's so conscious of what he says. He's always giving sound bites to the press. He's always saying things. And then, what was it? The Key said after all after Duckett's comments and stuff, "Oh, we're not very good in front of the press," and sometimes I'm cringing. Well, hold on a minute. That's because your coach is saying stuff like that in the dressing room. This is the thing, they are going to have such a problem over the next few weeks, because the reality is all of it has been set from the top in one way only, and now it's consequence time. And the consequence time, if Adelaide goes bad, because listen, you've got to take it to 5 days to lose it in the same amount of time as the least amount of days of cricket that Ashes has been lost in. it ain't going to go to 5 days, is it? So if we lose in Adelaide, it's a record set for the least days, the Ashes series have been lost in. Now, honestly, even at this stage, I honestly firmly believe I would get Brendan McCullum out of there. I would get Key. I would just say we'll sort it out later. I'd get Andy Flower there straight away. I'd read the Players a Riot Act a little bit, and I would make some changes. I would take Brook to 3, Pope to 5. Got to get a spinner in there. And you know what? Get Josh Tongue in there. Let Bryden Cars have a rest now. And tell Jofra that he cannot pick and choose when he runs in and bowls. And I would literally do that. And I would say to Ben Stokes, you need to stop worrying about and carrying everyone else. I would send him to slip. I would genuinely send him to slip and say, you stay there. Let the bowlers bowl, make their own decisions. Let the batters bat, make their own decisions. Own up, take some responsibility, and start playing like professional cricketers and stop, being like kids where you've got to be told what to do every second of the day. That's what I would do.
I don't disagree with any of that, but I think they should have done that 12 months ago. But they're not going to do it now whilst the Ashes is still live. They all say we're going to give this team and this leadership the chance to kind of put this right. But I think when it goes to 3-0, I'd absolutely agree. Lucas, you're going to Adelaide, aren't you? You're in Adelaide, but you're off to go and see the third test and see. Well, you'll be hoping the Ashes being won.
Well, I hope there's an Ashes to begin with. I'll be going on day 3. Why I got a day 3 ticket, I've got no idea. So my preparation has just been as bad as England's. So that's you're going to produce green top pitches, but you still get a day 3 ticket. How stupid of you! To Azeem's point, a fear of Ben Stokes. Is Ben Stokes picking play? He said Ben Stokes is selecting the players. Selecting the team. Is he selecting a team to play a certain way, or is he selecting players that will be yes men? Now he's literally pushed out James Anderson, who, he's a bit of a trapper. He doesn't take many prisoners. He likes a bit of a mouth. Same with Stuart Broad, got rid of him. In my opinion, I thought James Anderson should have. I hate not picking a swing bowler in a pink ball test. I think that's just ridiculous. You need at least one swing bowler because that's what the pink ball does. It does swing. I would have played. I don't know if Jimmy Anderson's even there or not. I'm not sure. But I would have at least picked Jimmy Anderson or some kind of swing bowler for this game. So their selection again, that comes to arrogancy, not doing your history. I feel for Atkins because I think he's just been thrown to the wolves. He will not get any swing with the way he holds the ball. The cross seam, he'll get nothing, and he's been very poor this series, very poor. Not his fault, but that's lack of coaching, telling him to change his grip, or lack of preparation. Knowing that the kookaburra, to swing the kookaburra, you need to be upward seam. It needs to be dead straight, otherwise it will not swing. And Atkins just doesn't do that. So I feel for him. I feel for the bowlers. Like I said, I got high praise for Archer, high praise for Cass, who just come in bowl, with the hearts. And Ben Stokes driving him to the ground. I agree with Azeem. I think the captain needs to go, but also that's down to coaching. Being yes man. You're a coach. Just because you're a coach does not mean you say yep. You have to at least teach them something. Now I know these are grown players. Yeah,
I'll just come back in on that because from what my reading in between the lines, and I might be completely wrong. We kind of the media called it BazBall, but I think this is very much Ben Ball. This is how Ben Bull wanted his team to play. And when he sat down initially with Brendan McCullum, this is what he wanted his team to be. And Brendan McCullum said, yeah, I'll back you. So this, to me, is Ben Bull. I think Ben Stokes drives this team. Ben Stokes is the person that kind of sets the tone for it. Ben Stokes is the person that makes a lot of the decisions. And Brendan McCullum kind of just lets him get on with it.
Well, I'm not asking for the captain to be got rid of, by the way. I'm just asking him to go to slip. And actually, I've been saying this for the last 8 months. I think he takes too much on himself. I think he tries to do too much. He cannot do the stuff for Ollie Pope, Zach Crawley, Ben Duckett. If he has to keep spending his energy on them, then they shouldn't be there. They played over 60 test matches. That's what I mean. And that's the other part. There's a lot of clamour for Brendan McCullum. And I think it is. I think it's a combination. But Ben has had free reign. Ben's a very imposing character, and I don't think I've seen anyone in English cricket be as imposing as Ben, to be honest, in terms of how everyone around him is around him. I don't, and I don't say this lightly. I think the cricket media is scared of Ben. I think even they're fearful of him.
I could do Brendan McCullum's job, because basically he's just gone in there, put a tracksuit on, stuck his feet up, said yes to everything that's been asked of him, and played golf on the off days and made the players feel happy, and had a few beers with them every now and again. I mean, that's not a tough job to do, is it?
That's not. Yeah, but that's not a coach. That's just being a mate. That's not actually coaching. That's being a mate, and that never works. That never, in my opinion, that never. Under the golden generation with John Buchanan, he wasn't there to be their mate. He was there to coach them. You know, you had talented players like Ricky Ponting, Damien Martin, Justin Langer, Shane Warne. He was trying to make them better every day, despite how good they were currently at that time. But he wasn't there to be their mate. He was there to coach them into being there every day. I feel with Brendan McCullum, he's there just to be their mate. That's not good enough. I don't think that hardly ever works.
Isn't it nice to see an Australian getting so passionate about English cricket? It's beautiful. Anyway, just before we finish, because we basically, the question was, did BazBall die in Brisbane? I think it'll die in Adelaide, because I think they will double down. They'll go again in Adelaide, because they'll say the series is still alive, and then all the fallout will be properly after the third test, when they probably lost the Ashes quicker than any other English team down under. Well, let's finish with the one glaring positive. Joe Root's century was a top knock. Sorry, you just want to come back in with something before that? I think.
Yeah, just on that, I actually don't think they'll double down. I think they'll go to Adelaide, and I think they'll go in the tone or in the method of what we saw from Will Jacks and Ben Stokes. But I think what they'll end up doing is, what they'll end up doing is going to the complete other extreme. I think they'll try and block. I think they'll try and play, and then they'll get caught in between. And what you'll see is, I think they'll get to about the same score. What you'll see is a lot of tentativeness. And because of that, then what you see in interviews is like, well, see, we were tentative, right? We should have just gone at it. That's what you'll see. And this is what this causes. When you deal in extremes, it's a little bit like, I'll give you a different example of it. When you're a batter, right, there's always this question of, shall I have a trigger or shall I not have a trigger, right? And I started off, when I first played, I didn't have a trigger. And was doing all right, felt comfortable, blah. But then you get encouraged to have a trigger, right? Then you go and have a trigger. You have a couple of bad knocks, and you're like, God, I don't want a trigger. Why am I bothering with a trigger? So then you get rid of the trigger, and then you go back to, and then you get out a couple, and then you're just fully confused as to what the right way is. So what you'll see now is an overreaction of completely the opposite way. And basically, there'll be a lot of tentativeness. They won't know whether they're coming forward. They'll be caught on the crease, LB, bowled, caught on the crease, nicking off. And obviously, Nathan Lyon's going to be back. So that challenge. And then they'll be like, see, this is why we wanted them to go out there and whack it. So I think that's what's going to happen. But I think BazBall, not will it die? I think it already is dead.
The trouble with that, though, is that if you suddenly say to that dressing room, right, we want you to play traditional cricket, there's at least two in that batting lineup right at the top of the order, in Ben Duckett and Zach Crawley, that have been picked because they don't play traditional cricket, and they probably can't play traditional cricket. Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett like to put bat to ball and like to get on with it. So asking them to bat for 100 balls for 12 runs is probably not even in their compass.
But don't forget, they're all reading, they're all watching, they're all seeing, right? The fear inside them going into Adelaide is going to be like nothing they've ever experienced in their life, right? Let's not beat around the bush. There's scapegoats. At this stage, genuinely, there's obviously people are looking for scapegoats, right? You know what I would encourage them to do is actually forget everything that's been said and just go and play how you want to play. And individually, if I was not in the team and if I knew Ollie Pope, I'd be saying to Ollie, listen, mate, forget that there is a guy called Brendan McCullum. Forget there's a guy called Ben Stokes here. Genuinely, because the best players are selfish. What I want you to do is go out there and bat for yourself, get 100, because they're looking for scapegoats, and you're the easiest target.
Yeah.
And if 3 or 4 of them do that and take responsibility, England will have a score. I want them to go out there and think of their careers.
In a way, that's what they should be doing anyway. Isn't it? Really, betting it. That's
You've got to try all the psychology right now to try and get them to basically cut the noise out. But it's not actually the external noise. I want them to cut the internal noise out.
No Handler says they cannot change themselves. That's how they are. This is their traits. Well, we'll see. No Handler, won't we? As the next Test match starts on the 17th to 21st in Adelaide. Let's finish with that little just mention of Joe Root. It'd be wrong to go through this without mentioning that he did finally notch off a century in Australia to kind of almost complete the set. It'll mean far less to him now than it did at the time, because obviously with the defeat, it kind of lessens the impact of that. But it does actually give him a century in Australia. And he's a tremendous player. He'll go down regardless of BazBall, regardless of his own captaincy tenure, regardless of anything. He'll go down as one of the greats of English cricket, and well played to him and well deserved. And hopefully over the next 3 Test matches, there's more to come of that. Lucas, serious prediction as things stand now. What do you reckon the final score is going to be?
Well, I said, the series, I said 4-1 from the start. Having said that, Australia can't be complacent in Adelaide. I think that's the only way. If they were to lose, I think it'll be through complacent. They have to, BazBall, you can say, is dead or dying. This is the last hurrah. Australia got to be ruthless. They can't go off the back foot. Cummins is going to be back. I presume Cummins will play Stockett. That's one change for sure. Whether they want to stick with Nisa and keep lying out, I'm not sure with that. It's actually quite amusing, James, that Rob Key, Rob Key said that. I heard Rob Key say that these dibbly-dobbly bowlers don't work.
Lucas, forget Rob Key for 1 second. Did you just say that you might want to keep Nisa in and leave Nathan Lyon out? Is that what I just heard?
Well, if they keep predicting pitches like these, there's no point. What's the point?
Listen, if you want to have a battle about who can play most dumbest decisions and dumb cricket, you're going to let England win. Why the hell would you have left? I know Nisa ended up getting 5-4, but honestly, if Australia just does the simple things without trying to be smart, England won't get anywhere near them. But if you leave Nathan Lyon out, you got away with it this test because England didn't take advantage. Really, England, if they had half a brain in them, they should have realised that without Nathan Lyon, take the balls into their 3rd and 4th spells, they would have been able to bat at a higher run rate. So please don't drop Nathan Lyon.
I really like Nathan Lyon's interview on the pitch side where
brilliant.
You're on a chat.
Yeah.
How did you chat go? Sure. Was it? It's like he wasn't happy, was he? He was not happy.
I don't know why he gave the interview.
But no, look, whatever Australia go with, but there's for sure Cummins will come in for Dogger. That's a given. But no, it's interesting that Rob Key says all these dibbly-dobbly bowlers are no threat in Australia. Yet Nisa's taken a 5-week call in the second innings. Bowler's taken wickets. Dogger's taken wickets. I find that amusing. Because Australia have changed their pitches.
I think it sums it up.
In Australia, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think it sums it up. I think it sums him up. I think it sums the thought process up because they have this disregard of anything that is not X Factor or that's not like all bums off the seats type stuff. But actually, cricket is a very simple game, complicated by idiots. And to say that Test cricket 75 mile an hour, well, I can remind him Philander, Mohammad Asif. There's many bowlers that have been able to have a lot of success, doing it that way. And the fact that the saddest part is his mentality is actually of what Australia used to be like. And actually, Australia is very suited to a guy who's going to run in with a keeper up and just ball lengths. And it's even more suited against this England batting lineup because they've got no patience.
And if you're a good player, you're a good player full stop, aren't you? You can probably adapt. So what was your prediction, Lucas? What did you go with in the end?
No, yeah, no. I said 4-1 at the start of the series. I think if Australia wrap the Ashes up, maybe there might be a complacency in one game, and England might win one. But that's it. Like I said, that's the only threat. If England do win, that's the only reason I think. If Australia show complacency and they think, you know what, we can just go off a little tab, you can't. You got to put the foot on the throat. Got to be relentless.
And that's why Australia do far better than England. I mean, that first test was a testimony to that, wasn't it? My prediction at the start of the series was 3-1. I'm revising that. 5-0 Australia. Azeem, what's your prediction for where it goes from here?
Yeah, listen, I still do think England will win one test match. I've felt throughout that England will have enough to win a test match. At a real push too, but I don't think to the possibility anymore because Pat Cummins is going to be fresh. I mean, some of their best players aren't even played a part. Actually, at this stage, I'm finding it very difficult to England to win a test match. And I've got to, I think, from a cricketing point of view, there's no justification apart from dreaming of England winning a test match. I really don't. I think they've got their thought process, and I don't think it's a skill thing, but I think their thought process and their understanding of where they're actually at is a long way off reality.
Two things to finish with. Ritish says 3-2 England can still win the Ashes. Don't give up, Ritish. I like your style, even though I don't agree with any part of that. And Tim says BazBall is an improvement on 1 win in 17 tests. Tim, if I could just answer that very quickly before we finish. One win in 17 tests came during COVID, where England were playing away from home in ridiculous bubbles and what have you. It wasn't reflective of that England team, I don't think, and it needs a big asterisk next to it. And if you actually look at the results during BazBall, prior to that little period you're talking about, prior to COVID and now, England were actually beating India at home and beating Australia at home, and they were still losing away. And they were still getting wins in the other series. So I don't think it's particularly any better than it used to be, Tim. And I think probably you could say it's actually worse now than it was before, except there's every now and again, there's one passage of play which hits the headlines, gets onto the BBC News, and everybody goes rah, rah, rah. But then for every day that's like that, there's 10 days where they lose 7 wickets for 43.
Can I read you out what ChatGPT told me what a cult is? A cult is a group with unusual or extreme beliefs and practices, often centered on a charismatic leader who demands total loyalty. These groups typically use deceptive and authoritarian methods to control members, making them dependent and isolated from the outside world. Characteristics include excessive devotion to a person, object, or belief system, questionable practices, and manipulative psychological techniques like high-pressure recruiting.
That is why everybody, you're going to be watching the Cricket Badger Cults podcast next time with your lovely leader, James Buttler, the Cricket Badger. Lucas and Azeem, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. And been lovely to have you. I'll see you again, hopefully in better times for English cricket as we go on. But I'm sure we'll talk after the third test. Have a nice time in between. Enjoy the cricket, everybody. And we'll see you again on the Cricket Badger podcast very soon indeed. Cheers all.